Good morning, and welcome to Rooted in Our Ancestors' Dreams, the podcast where we explore the wisdom, resilience, and dreams of those who came before us and how their legacy shapes our present and future. I'm Cara, and each week we'll dive into stories, traditions, and conversations that reconnect us with our roots, honor our ancestors, and help us plant seeds for a better tomorrow. This podcast is about more than storytelling. It's about reclaiming our narratives, reflecting on our journey, and rooting ourselves in the dreams that carried our people forward. So grab your tea, your journal, or just a moment of quiet as we take this journey together. Let's begin. Today, we're thrilled to welcome Gary Jones of Surviving Today, LLC. He is a licensed clinical social worker, licensed in Pennsylvania, Delaware, and Maryland. Thank you so much for being here, Gary.
You're more than welcome. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
To start with, what does Rooted in Our Ancestors' Dreams mean to you?
For me, it means a continuation of everything that our ancestors started. I mean, us being the fulfillment of what they started. I mean, we have to understand that there's nothing new under the sun. You know, things that we're doing now are things that we know that our ancestors and theirs before them did. So I think to see us now being able to continue to grow, to continue to be resilient in the face of everything. I mean, it just makes a lot of sense. So I think that it just means that we are people that continue to grow. You know, we're not one. We don't stay stagnant. I don't care what the press says about us, what other people that don't like us say about us. We are ever evolving and growing. And that's what we do.
Thank you. Thank you. I forgot to tell our listeners that our topic today is Black Man and the Healing Power of Therapy. So on the back of that, I want to ask you, as a Black male therapist, what do you think are some of the biggest misconceptions about Black men and mental health?
I think some of the biggest misconceptions is that people think that Black men don't need therapy. I think that sometimes people think that when people look at therapy, I think they look at therapy as being something that is white. It's meant for white people. As a matter of fact, therapy, I don't even believe was initially created with Black folk in mind, to be totally honest. So when we talk about Black men, they look at us as we don't get depressed. You know, we get angry. We're not sad. We're not experiencing anxiety. We just get toxic or rude or whatever people want to call it. In other words, they don't see us a lot of times. So, and I think that for us also as Black men, I think it also means that people will consider us as being, like we as Black men, we think, we might look at therapy as being that we're crazy, you know, being that there's something wrong with us, that we're not strong. So it's all of these are the things that I think when we look, it's the biggest misconception. People think that Black folk don't want therapy. I think that sometimes it's the way it's presented to us, you know, and I think that becomes a big piece of whether we decide to get it, whether we don't decide to get it.
Absolutely. I do believe that there are a lot of misconceptions about therapy as a whole, not only among Black people and Black men, but also with minorities. There's a distrust with the system. What are people going to do with these honest thoughts I bring to them? Are they going to think I'm angry? Am I going to be mislabeled? Is my family going to get in trouble? There's a lot of different, elements that go into going to therapy for people, and being vulnerable is a big thing to Black men. Being able to safely kind of air your thoughts and your feelings without being judged, because a lot of times we do label vulnerable Black men as soft or, gay or something like that, or just weak. And that's not something we see a lot of.
Kara, I'm so glad you brought that up, because I think one of the most important pieces is understanding that what therapy is supposed to achieve. Therapy is supposed to achieve that safe space where you can be able to explain how you feel, what's going on inside of you. That's what it's supposed to achieve. And I think for us as black men, we have to consider the fact that we haven't always felt safe. And most of the times we don't feel safe. And that's just due to a lot of the society pressures around us. So we don't feel safe. So when we're walking into a therapist's office, um, one, being able to talk about yourself, do I trust you? What will you do with this? You tell me you're going to keep it here, but how much of it do you keep here? Do you tell your friends, etc.? Will you use me as some kind of guinea pig? And the reality is that while that might sound crazy, we've been used as guinea pigs. So I'm just saying historically. So the reality is that these are some of the thoughts that go into, and the other piece is, honestly, a lot of times, a lot of therapists don't look like us. So they don't really understand who we are in the first place, or they haven't done their work to see how to, to talk to us, to see why we feel the way we feel. So those are very good points.
I agree. And working with Black men, I'm getting a lot more clients these days that are Black men. They do not necessarily know how to put the feelings in words. They're like very limited in kind of describing what they're feeling and normalizing it. So yeah, there's a lot that goes in that. How do you think that historical and generational traumas have shaped the way many Black men view vulnerability and emotional expression?
I think we just haven't been taught to do it because we haven't been allowed to express ourselves. If we go back if we go back and we look at just, systematic racism, just how those things have impacted us. We look at, slavery, of course, and then we look at, Black codes, Jim Crow laws, segregation laws, all of the things that kind of just held us back. And we were not allowed to have a voice or what would appear to be an equal voice. And a lot of times when we did have what we thought would be an equal voice, a lot of times it just, it wasn't equal, so you get like the mob rule that would come and tear down communities of color that were thriving and had their own voice. So historically, as Black men, I think that we just haven't been able to see that. We haven't been able to do that, but we feel like we can't. And in some places, it seems more safer to just not, to just not speak. And if you keep something inside of you long enough, it's gonna blow. It's like a volcano. You may not necessarily see the volcano, but that the volcano is starting to rise. And then when that volcano starts to come out, the image of that volcano coming out, going down the side of the mountain and stuff, now it's there. And that's us. I think a lot of times because of the stigma, because of the historical trauma, because of the generational trauma that we've experienced, we just felt like we just haven't had a voice. And then, of course, there's other things that we haven't always been able to have the means, the financial means, the access to therapy. And once again, culturally incompetent therapists. A lot of times people don't know our culture. And if you don't know a man, how do you talk to that man? And the only way you can talk to that man is get to know that man. That means you got to learn the insides and you got to let that man feel comfortable enough talking about himself and not the theoretical concepts that you want to use in this particular session. You got to let that person be able to express themselves.
Absolutely. When I think of the shows that I've seen of Black families and where Black men play a significant role, shows like Rock, The Shy, Blackish.
Yeah.
I love seeing that because it does demonstrate that emotional vulnerability and the community, and not only just the community for family, allowing those men to have that vulnerability.
Exactly.
And to have that safety.
I think we have to understand that there are healthy Black men. I think if we look at the news today, people will focus on that what this guy did, this negative thing, and then they're not even talking about all of the elements that go or dynamics that go into maybe why that even happened in the first place. But I love what you said about like shows like Rock, because there were so many shows where, early on, I mean, we had to get the roles we could get. Obviously, you were being a working actor or actress, but the reality is that TV didn't want to see a strong black man that was there, and a healthy black man that was there nurturing his family. Because the society doesn't believe, a lot of this society doesn't believe that we have that capability to do that. So I think, to me, that's a problem, to be honest with you.
Yes, and in these shows, there are so many different layers of it. With The Shy, you do have a lot of sexuality and gender roles you see within that, but you still see those as strong black men, like the men's circle that they have, that they come together. And these are men who are involved in criminal activities or drug dealers or just your everyday men, but they all come together to try to uphold each other.
Exactly.
And I love that. With Blackish, you have a family man who's working in corporate America, with these kids that he has to raise and the strong wife and, in-laws and his own mother. So you see that. And then Rock, that's a strong one right there too. That's a community activist right there.
That was one of the best shows, honestly, that I've ever
Loved
seen.
it.
I love that show.
He went toe to toe, and you could tell that's a man that loved not only his family, but his community.
Yeah.
And he was willing to take those risks. So, with that, what role does cultural identity, masculinity, and community expectation play in how Black men show up emotionally?
I mean, I think it's everything that we're talking about now. I mean, I think it's the fact that, masculinity in our community is so important, because but part of it is that we have this image of what a man is, and, this super strong man, but a strong man that not always necessarily healthy. So I think we have to be able to understand that there might be some men that are strong, but there's some men that aren't healthy and strong. So, your community shapes you, where you grow up in. Like, for example, I am a Southerner from North Carolina, but in my teenage years, I moved to Philadelphia. When I moved to Philadelphia, I mean, I had to adapt quickly. I couldn't be soft. I couldn't be, and I wasn't what they call a thug. That wasn't me, but I had to learn how to shut some things down. Part of that, and then I had to shut my emotions down. I couldn't express myself. I was a guy who was emotional. If I needed to cry, I had to go around the corner somewhere. I had to be by myself. I couldn't even really do that in front of my family because my family, thought that was kind of crazy. He's soft, he's weak. So you try to adapt and you try to live up to what those expectations are. But sometimes those expectations can be hard on you. And I think it keeps us from understanding our own mental health. As a matter of fact, we don't even think about the mental health. Like when you're a kid, especially a young kid, you're trying to survive. And I think that's what happens. You get a young kid who, as a teenager, you're just trying to survive. That might mean fitting in. That might mean doing something, trying to excel in some other kind of way. I don't know what it might look different for different people, but what it doesn't always look like is a person trying to, or a person being surrounded by people who are supportive. And that doesn't mean that there aren't people who don't have supportive people in their lives, but a lot of times it's not there. So then you have to learn how to put on an act. You got to learn how to be this way for certain people. You almost have to live in a bilingual way. I mean, I know that's not the right word to use, but you live in a double life. And your mental health is impacted by it, so.
It's kind of like the code switching we talk about when Black people go from, being their environment to corporate America or your workplace environment.
Exactly.
So do you think that having healthy males in their lives, do you think that has a significant impact on males, or do you think that a woman can give a male that same kind of, like a single mother can give males that. I know that's a very heated question right there,
No,
but I'm just wondering what the, significance of that is. If as opposed to, can I be a healthy woman if I have a healthy mother, as opposed to, can I be a healthy woman if I have a healthy father showing me how he can pour into that healthy.
so to answer that question, here's what I think. There's a lot of black men who didn't have a healthy black man in their lives, but in their life growing up, but they had a strong, healthy black woman. Right. So in trying to answer the question without getting too confusing, right, I think there's yes and yes. Um, as as a woman, can a woman teach a young black man how to be a black man? No, just like me as a man, I couldn't teach my daughter how to be a woman. I couldn't do that. I didn't have that. I didn't have that. I didn't know.
You
I'm
don't
not.
have that experience or
Yes,
lineage.
yeah, I didn't have that experience. However, I think what happens is that we got to go above that question because I think whereas I couldn't teach my daughter to be a woman, I could teach her to be a healthy adult, just like many women in our community who are having the burden of raising their young men by themselves have been able to teach their young men to be healthy adults, healthy teenagers, adolescents, and then moving into adults. I do believe that it is very beneficial for young men to have, positive and healthy, and I emphasize positive and healthy male role models in their lives because we have male role models, but everyone's not that person. Okay. So I'm going to say that I think that if we have that makes a huge difference. A lot of young men have gone astray because they didn't have that. But also I want to emphasize that a lot of young men have also learned that that's not the way I want to live. For me, I didn't want to live that way. I didn't want to do some of the things that I saw uncles and my elders doing, I didn't want to do that. So therefore, it took me in a different direction. So once again, without belaboring the answer to your question, I think the dynamics sort of intertwine in there because, you know, we see every day women raising our young men. And without y'all doing that, we would be astray. You know, I do believe that men, I think when there are stable men in the lives of a young man, yes, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that definitely can lead that young man to heights unknown. Sometimes we don't get that. And if we don't get that, hopefully, we can get that from somewhere, so we just have to keep growing. That's all I'm saying. I hope that makes sense. Cause that question sometimes can get a little convoluted because, people might think one way and, but I think it does take a village for all of us to grow and to get our kids, young men and young women.
It does. And I was thinking back, I mentioned all those shows. I did not mention Boys in the Hood.
Oh, oh, excellent movie. Excellent.
And that was a very interesting dynamic there because the mother was very, strong, but
Mm-hmm.
maybe came on too strong. But the father was just strong enough to have that hold on him where it didn't lead him the wrong way, even though he was surrounded in a community that
Mm-hmm.
may have been a little bit, I don't know if you want to say toxic, but definitely not the best. It's a hard community to live in.
It was a lot of urban communities and well, actually rural communities too of color and can be very difficult places to live. And I don't mean difficult in a bad way. I just simply mean that, there are some things
Hard to navigate.
you have to learn how to navigate those areas. The point that we have to be able to show is that you do navigate. You will be able to navigate. And I think when you look at Boys in the Hood, I think what we see there is that the mom was very, very strong, but at a certain point, her son needed something else. Now, the father may not have been the healthiest guy in the world, but he loved his son and he put nothing above his son. So once again, we're not talking about a perfect mom and a perfect dad. We're just talking about parents that know at different times my child, be it my son or my daughter, need different things in their lives. What do I need to do to make sure they get that?
Yes. And that message of our child, because a lot of times, even when I'm doing therapy with women, I hear my child, and I'm like, it took two to make that child. It's your
Exactly.
child together. So you have to work in conjunction with the other parent to make sure that this child is thriving.
Exactly.
So how do you think therapists can create safer, more affirming spaces for Black men to unpack trauma, anger, and pain?
We need to be able to relate. I think the one thing that we bring to our sessions is an understanding that we generally have a shared experience. I think that we have a general shared experience. Now, let me be careful. I don't want to indicate that every Black man has the same experience. So that's not the case. But I think there is a sort of, I feel like I can trust if nothing else, I feel like this guy can trust me. I've had people request me as a therapist, because they wanted to, they didn't think that a white woman or white man therapist would understand them totally. So I would say, I think what we do is we give a place for a voice. In other words, it's non-judgmental, no judgment. This is your place to feel safe, to talk about it, to navigate your feelings, your place to be able to say what's going on in your life, and hopefully to help walk alongside of you in finding what you need to do. So, yeah, finding the answers that you need for the complex problems that you might be facing in your life. So I think that it's just the fact black men in the space makes a difference, because you see that there's someone that, once again, probably understands you, probably really that's the hope. Now, does that mean that every Black male therapist will be right for every Black male client? No, it doesn't mean that, but it gives hope that there's someone that will be able to help you to go along your journey of healing.
I think it's a very unique population in that the experience is so different, in that Black men may be the only group of people where their own masculinity and being has been demonized against them.
Oh yeah.
It's been weaponized against them. Everything from sexuality to the way you look. It's like you cannot just be Black man without having some kind of label or box put around you. And it's sad. Like you get these negative, we love to believe as a society, these negative kind of connotations and views and stereotypes of Black men, or sexualized, angry, toxic, not intelligent, good for sports, all of this stuff. But we don't see a lot of I don't think we highlight enough the positive people that we see, that we know that live within our community. The mentors, what we saw in the Million Man March. I would have loved to see that come to fruition more. There's so many programs out there, and I just don't believe that, the world is kind of unsafe for Black people. It's kind of hard living in a space like that where you can just be pulled over, not for something like that's, actually criminal, but just because of the way you look, or the music's too loud, or you just.
In your own, in our own world, we see it every day. Because, you have police officers that are in, our neighborhoods that don't know the people. They may come themselves from other places, and they don't know this community, and then they're indoctrinated with whatever they're indoctrinated with. And I'm not saying that all Black, and that all police officers are bad people. I'm not saying that. The majority of them are probably not. But the reality is that you still gotta learn the culture. We as Black men, we wake up every day. The TV tells us that we're bad people, that we're angry, and we may be angry, but what's not looked at is, why are we angry? I do an anger management class, for my job. I could have another job as well. Every week we talk about anger. And one of the things that we talk about is, yeah, you can be angry, but how do you manage that? And also, why are you angry? Because underneath that anger is a lot of disappointment, racism. All of
Hurt.
these things are the hurt, pain, loneliness. But for Black men, the larger community sees, oh, he's angry. And so we're going to punish the angry Black man. And that has been the thing that has been happening for centuries in America. So that opens up a whole other can of worms. I know we ain't got time to go into, but I'm just saying in general, I think it's just walking as a Black man, living as a Black man is a hard thing to do. And we have to navigate that every single day. So as a Black male therapist, that's part of my job, trying to help my brother in front of me know that you're not walking by yourself. You're here. We got you. You're going to be okay. You can make it.
Yeah. Yeah. What are some practical ways that family members, partners, friends, communities can support Black men on their mental health journey?
I think we have to be able to let let our Black men, and not just young Black men, older Black men, because there's a lot of older Black men that have never dealt with these issues. So I think we have to be able to to encourage people, let people know that it is okay. It's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay not to know. It's okay not to understand. And if you as a Black man are at this place where you're dealing with some issues that you just simply don't know, then let me help you. Okay. Let me, and I'm going to still be, I'm saying for the family and friends, please let them know that you're still with them. You're still going to walk with them. You're not going to leave them, forsake them if they start to express some things that maybe they never knew that they could express. Being able to give the support that they need is that's going to be the most important thing. Just don't stop. Just be there no matter what it looks like. Continue to be there.
Thank you. And if you could speak directly to Black men or boys who are hesitant about starting therapy, don't know what it's about, what message would you give them?
I would say show up. Listen. Listen. It is okay to talk about how you feel in the company of people who don't know you. I mean, I put it this way, develop your tribe, develop your people that you can trust. But as far as therapy is concerned, understand this is your safe place. This is your place to express what you need to express. It's okay to get it out. It's okay to admit that you don't know. It's okay to just simply be you. You can stop pretending. In your therapy session, if you find the right therapist, you can be your complete, unique you.
Thank you. Thank you for that message. Can you tell me, tell our listeners a little bit more about how to contact you if you're accepting new clients, if you have a website?
I can do that. Yes. Once again, my agent, my company is, Surviving Today LLC. My email address, is GLJ, then it's the word social work, the number's 06 at msn.com. So that's GLJ social work, 06 at msn.com. That's my email. Anyone can reach me at that anywhere. My telephone number, if you want to reach me, is 215-278-9567. Please feel free to call, leave a message. We do consultations. We do sessions. And I can answer questions as well, so, sometimes it doesn't necessarily have to be, you meeting with me to just do a session alone. It could be, if I can answer a question, we can do that. I also do workshops. I also do trainings. We'll come to your churches, your events, whatever, because the help is not inside the therapy room. The help is outside the therapy room because the people are outside there. So that's where we go. I do have a website. I'm going to read it off for you guys. www.survivingtodayllc.com. So that's SURVIVINGTODAY DAYLLC.com. Please feel free to, feel free to reach out if you just need, some advice, just to talk, to put something out. This is the job. This is my mission in my life. This is what I do. So
Thank you so much. And as we close, we want to leave you with this thought. You are living proof that your ancestors were valid, worthy. How will you honor them today? And remember, as we walk this journey together, we are planting seeds for those who come after us. Let's root ourselves in hope, healing, and a vision for a better tomorrow. Thank you for joining us on Rooted in Our Ancestors' Dreams. If this episode resonated with you, please share it with someone who might need it. And don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and follow us on social media. We're on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. At least let's keep the conversation going. And please reach out to our guest interviewee today if you want to get in contact with someone who is out there providing support for our Black men and our young Black boys. Until next time, stay rooted, stay inspired, and keep dreaming. Thank you so much, Gary, for joining us and lending us your advice and your experience.
thank you for having me.
Thank you.